I'm not crying because of the AI researchers leaving. I'm crying because of the onion, guys, I promise. I swear to God, if Uncle Roger finds this video, I'm gonna cry. Dude, it's about to be sweeter than Panda Express. Wait, what do you vote? What do you vote?
Hey guys, welcome to In Context Cooking, where we take one dish, taste it, and try to recreate it with minimal help. Today, we have a very special guest, the founder and CEO of SemiAnalysis, Dylan Patel. Welcome, Dylan.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I guess the question to start off is, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, of 1 being
10,
awful?
10.
10? Okay.
Wait,
so you're an amazing cook.
Looks.
As a cook, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10?
Probably like a 5 or 6.
Okay, 5 or 6 is not bad. I feel like
maybe 3. Let me revise. Okay.
So low expectations and then over-delivering. You're gonna over-deliver.
The presentation is great, just not the plate.
Okay. Honestly, like, we'll work with 3 or 5, whatever. But yeah, I guess in front of us, we have a bunch of ingredients. Do you have an idea of what we're gonna make? I feel like it's kind of obvious, just looking off of it.
Eggs, rice, chicken. This is like
very. Yeah,
it's
stuff,
anything. But then the right side, you know, like the peas really throw me off.
Yeah.
The ginger though, and soy sauce. Okay, this is like fried rice.
Okay, yes. Yeah. So today we have chicken fried rice, which we'll be recreating. Yes. This is restaurant chicken fried rice, so we'll try to recreate it as close as possible based off tasting it. So here's a spoon for you. Cheers.
Cheers.
That was very good.
I'm shocked it's still warm.
Yeah.
I assume this has been sitting here for an hour.
Yeah, we nuked it a lot and then kept it as is. So yeah, just to get started, do you want to introduce yourself? I know that you went to Minnesota briefly after, and you were a beekeeper for 2 years? You did a lot of these kind of like side quests. You have like a lot of lore. But now you're, the leading voice on chips and everything that, whether it be hedge funds or even people in AI.
So I did live in Minnesota briefly after college. I'm from rural Georgia. Yeah, I did Beekeep for like a year and a half, basically. I feel like I've just kind of sort of went through a lot of life, just next step. Doesn't seem like there's a clear, immediate path.
Yeah.
Looking back, I can spin a narrative like, oh, obviously I would be doing this because my interest when I was 8 was this, and my interest when I was 12 was this, but like moderating forums related to chips. But I thought it was just like a serendipitous thing,
Yeah.
But then eventually sort of everything culminated and like blogging and doing consulting and doing research, being interested in AI and data science, being interested in chips, and then it all sort of like culminated in like, oh my God, everything blew up all together. And so I guess right time, right moment.
Yeah.
Maybe some foresight to have your passion be the thing that everyone cares about now.
Yeah, no, I think it turned out very great, doing amazing. And rumor has it, you started your Substack because you read Doug's and thought you could do a lot better, and he was like, hey, you should start a Substack. Is that true, or is there more behind that story?
Yeah, so what happened was I had an anonymous blog on the internet for many years.
Yeah.
I was moderating Reddit and all these things anonymously for around like hardware, Nvidia, Intel, AMD, this kind of stuff. And I was posting all this stuff. And I had an anonymous Twitter in Silicon Twitter, right, which people on like Teapot and like Tech Twitter don't understand.
Yeah.
And so I was doing this anonymously. Doug started posting, and I was like, "Wow, this is interesting, but like I think I could do a lot better." And then he's like, "Dude, why are you like posting on WordPress, right? Like do it non-anonymously, do it on Substack, and start charging for it." But then I was like, I'm not going to charge for this. I'm so great. And then one day I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to start charging for it because Doug told me to many times. And then a few years go by, and then Doug joins the company. So it was really a great moment that he told me to do it, because otherwise it might still just be like a niche anonymous blog where I'm still just doing random consulting rather than actually a company with 60 people.
Gotcha. Okay. So at that time you were still doing consulting, right? And you just had a separate blog that was more.
It was consulting related to the blog industry.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that's amazing. I guess now we could kind of look at the ingredients and maybe try a little. So here we have ginger, garlic, carrots.
We're just gonna eat the whole garlic.
Or yeah, we could all take a piece. And then this, I think, and we also have tasting spoons. Are you fun to try? I think this is sugar. Yeah. Like dating.
So sweet.
Okay, let's see.
I really hope this is salt.
Okay, it's sugar. Yeah. So this is sugar. And we'll know because everything will be laid out for you exactly like this. So we'll have to eyeball, and we'll be going fast. This, I don't think we need taste. I'm pretty sure this is
MSG?
Baking powder.
Oh.
Yeah, so
what kind of fried rice doesn't have MSG?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. We're
what's the
kinda
YouTuber?
Uncle Roger. Yes. But yeah, we have soy sauce here, baking powder, sugar, onion, of course. I think this is corn
If he
starch.
discovers this, he's gonna roast the fuck out
Yeah,
of
he
this.
will, but hopefully, he'll give us some grace. But okay, and then eggs, salt. Yeah.
Wait, is that the tactic? Intentionally don't put MSG in your rice.
Yeah.
So rage bait Uncle Roger.
Yeah, this is also short grain rice, which is also a red flag, but we just have it. And this is day old. So this is the important ingredient, to have it day old, not fresh.
Why does that matter?
It's a little drier, and it'll make the fried rice just like the grains be a little more separated compared to being a mushy mess. But yeah, I think we're good. Are you ready to show off your cooking skills?
Sure.
Great, let's get started. Dylan, are you ready to make some fried rice?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing, let's grab the chicken, and then we just need to marinate it, or velvet it rather. So take the cornstarch, it's one of the white powders that we saw before, and the baking powder. And then add like a spoonful, maybe half a spoon of cornstarch to the chicken, and then just a hint of the baking powder. And so, yeah, once we add that,
Like a pinch, or what we talking?
I just did a pinch or like a very small amount with my spoon. And then we can add a little bit of salt and soy sauce. I think this is salt. Make sure it's salt and not sugar.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a little bit of salt. And then soy sauce. And so what we want to do is we want to mix it kind of vigorously so it just looks like...
You said salt and soy sauce, all of it?
Yeah. Just like a little bit of each to give it some flavor. Because we're going to marinate it. And yeah, we just want to mix it vigorously so that it looks like a slop of chicken. But I guess one question on my mind that you've also discussed about is endgame scenarios with Arrakis, or in this case, Taiwan and TSMC. I guess, have you thought about what that would look like?
Bro wants to make fried rice and talk about China politics. Let's go.
Indeed. Very on topic.
That's vaguely racist.
Just vaguely.
Vaguely racist, yeah. Okay, so endgame scenarios are kind of insane, right? Like, there's a variety of things that one could that could happen.
Yeah. Such as.
So in some cases, right? Like it's like, status quo is the best, right? No war happens. I'm done with the chicken, by the way.
Okay.
No war happens.
And just start cutting the onion to like small dices, but continue.
We have no war, no invasion. There's no blockade.
Yeah.
Sort of status quo. China continues to industrialize itself with the industry that Taiwan has, but there's no major event that occurs. That's sort of option one. Option two, which is what a lot of people seem to think is the best, which is Taiwan actually more stringently claims it's independent.
Yeah.
At least a lot of Westerners, and then that seems like actually a poor option. Just because that potentially causes China to move much more aggressively on Taiwan, and sort of there's another set of options, which is okay, well, what if China moves close, or Taiwan moves closer to China in a political way, right? And so that's an example of that is hey, they elect the KMT, and the KMT ends up winning. So there's two parties in Taiwan, the DPP, KMT.
Yeah.
If the DPP wins, they've won for the last decade, and they're sort of more pro-U.S., more anti-China, more Taiwan independence.
Okay.
And then there's sort of the last scenario, which is just a full-on invasion.
Yeah.
Or at least a political coup or takeover of some sort. And so there's a variety of options possible. What I think is most likely is that there is some sort of political coup or action that destabilizes Taiwan in some way, but doesn't necessarily lead to an invasion, a full-scale invasion. And so sort of this is the best of the both worlds for at least China, right? They don't have to actually enter an invasion, but they get to continually creep more and more on Taiwan without actually having to deal with the repercussions of a war and subsequent blockades and so on and so forth. The kind of galaxy brain thing for an American to want is for actually the Taiwanese government, the pro-U.S. party to lose, right?
Oh, interesting.
So you want KMT to win,
Yeah.
And if KMT wins, then that means China will be placated more.
Yeah.
And you don't have Taiwan fully move into China's orbit, but you do have the government sort of placated in China.
Yeah.
At the same time, even if the KMT wins, it's not like TSMC starts disobeying American export restrictions, because the way American export restrictions are upheld is that Taiwan utilizes American banking systems, American equipment industries, and so they'll still have to uphold any U.S. export restrictions. So sort of like, China's placated by the fact that they have a friendly government in power, and yet China doesn't actually have any of the chips, and the U.S. continues to get to access the chips.
I guess for export controls as well. So I know that right now there's like stances, for example, Dario, right, is very anti-China having access to things. And I think supposedly one of the top researchers, Shunyu, also left because of that. There could be maybe
He left Anthropic?
He left one of the top labs.
Got it.
I guess, do you have opinions on, like, if the U.S.
How much of the onion should I dice, by the
You
way?
could just cut a dice like half. And then after you that, just start cutting the carrots to like a similar size. Do you have any thoughts on, the danger of maybe a lot of Chinese talent fleeing due to the very staunchly anti-Chinese stance that a lot of these AI labs or top figures may take, or do you think this is a non-issue?
I'm not crying because of the AI researchers leaving. I'm crying because of the onion, guys. I promise. No, but it'd be a travesty, right? If like a lot of like Chinese researchers left American labs. You know what? I think it's probably like half or at least a third of researchers at labs are Chinese. So obviously there's like a level of like, why are you don't antagonize too much.
Yeah.
At the same time, there is a level of like, this is the greatest technology to ever fall into humanity's hands. Obviously, we think we're the good guys, and by we I mean Americans. And so Americans think that they should control it, and maybe Anthropic thinks they're the good guys, not Americans as a whole. But whatever the moral justification is, like, whether it's, hey, we're the good guys and AI is going to be super powerful, and we're the only ones who can steward it, or hey, AI would be a great weapon, so let's make sure we're the only one with that weapon. There's certainly some level of control that needs to be had, right? Now the question is like, where does that control like start and stop, right? Because one could say, okay, well, let's just control the chips. Or let's just control the AI, but then it's like, okay, well then you let them buy the chips and they're able to do everything they want to do anyways. Yeah. Right? And this has existed across many technologies, right? China has great engineering. You only remove one piece of the puzzle, they're able to re-engineer that last bit of the puzzle. That's one context, right? And so that is like some people's argument, right? So for example, if you look at Nvidia or you look at like David Sachs, I think their argument is like, hey, we should not let them have the models, but we should let them have the chips and everything else, because then they're still relying on American ecosystem, American talent, American technology, American platforms. The other argument is like, hey, like, look, this stuff, if they don't have access to our models, but they have access to our chips, that alone gives them, that alone gives them all the control and capabilities they need to basically be on par or just slightly behind, right? And so we see that in the current regime today, right? Yeah. China has effectively great access to chips. Not as much, not completely unfiltered access, right? They either have to rent it, or they have to smuggle it, or there's some chips that are allowed. And China's not that far behind, right? You look at like Kimi K25 agent swarms, and it's like, well, this is like not worse than Codex by a marginal amount. Maybe 5.3, right? But 5.2, it's like not worse than Codex by a large amount. And so there is like an argument to be made that like, hey, current regime does not have the U.S. leading in AI by enough, right? And that's sort of the argument that like Dario would make, I think, is that, look, like current regime of export controls, China is still way caught up. China is still, not that far behind, and it would be disastrous if they are, in their eyes, right? And so the question is, how does one right that circle, right? So one could either A, antagonize China more, ban more things. Does that risk a Taiwan invasion, or does that lead to something, say catastrophic? Does that alienate researchers in America? That's one argument. Another one is like, well, look, this is like, we've got like 2 years, right? AI 27 bros, right? I'm not fully there, right, in terms of AI 27, but I'm pretty bullish on AI generally. And so then the other argument is like, look, we only have a few years until the capabilities of AI accelerate GDP growth. And by the way, am I cutting something else?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you did matchsticks. Huh?
So you can start cutting. We need to mince the garlic and then the ginger. But
right,
the garlic and the ginger has to be a lot finer.
Okay.
But yeah, continue.
I felt a little awkward just talking and not doing anything.
Okay,
and I feel like
so we're just cutting all the vegetables.
yeah. Sounds good. The one stance that like a lot of like folks have is that, you know, yeah, like let's be more anti-China because there's only a few years left, and so like, you know, until like super powerful AI systems, and those super powerful AI systems will make next generation AI systems, right? And that's like a lot of the argument that, like, let's say the Darios of the world would make.
Yeah.
And I'm sympathetic to that argument to some degree as well, right?
Okay.
If we start looking at like, hey, this year Google spending Amazon spending $200 billion, Google spending $180 billion on AI infrastructure primarily, right?
Yeah.
This is, you know, 4x what they were doing just not too long ago. And if they get returns on that of any degree, then we're talking about trillions of dollars of economic value being added in just the next handful of years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the risk here is that, like, okay, whatever AI is capable of doing, it's obviously adding hugely to the economy, and you want to do anything and everything you can to slow China down. We've never had an explosive growth like this. We're on the cusp of it, right? Right now, we only have, like, the AI industry maybe does 50 bill of revenue, across, but like we're seeing it explode, right? Anthropic's, adding 2-3 billion of revenue a month now, versus they were just adding a few hundred million of revenue a month earlier. So clearly we're in the takeoff period.
Yeah.
And so the argument there is that, like, let's just limit them completely, so they don't end up with all these super powerful AI systems. I'm a little bit like, it's hard to rationalize, every specific, like, argument, just because, like, I could argue, or I could steel man any of the arguments, right?
Yeah.
Actually, okay, no, maybe China should be sold our chips, because at the end of the day, they're still relying on our chips now for their AI systems, and they have less incentive to invade Taiwan. And if they invade Taiwan, then, all of a sudden, the whole party stops and we can't do anything. And when you think about what's the capability of China versus the U.S. to have a vertical supply chain in chips or AI or in really anything, China has by far the most advanced supply chain in semiconductors if you just look at China itself, right? In which case, like, if the lifeblood of AI is compute to some extent, to a large extent, then China would win if we didn't have Taiwan, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that time scale would be way longer because Taiwan is so far ahead in the production capacity, and China doesn't have the equipment ecosystem like the rest of the world does. But at the end of the day, that's exactly, like, sort of the argument that one would make is hey, like, if you push China too far, now they might invade Taiwan, and that ends up with this catastrophic scenario.
Yeah. Double clicking on something you mentioned already, with these big AI labs and even hyperscalers somewhat overextending on future spend with these data centers. Would there ever be something that would prompt you to get a little concerned? Because it seems right now we're in a very acceleration type of moment for AI, where still adoption for even like Claude Code and a lot of these great tools isn't as mainstream, but are there things that if you see happening in the next, 6 months or year, that would kind of concern you in terms of where the future lies of these companies maybe overextending a little too much, and whether concerns of being in a bubble may actually have some merit to it?
I mean, I think sort of not answering your question, but talking about something else I want to talk about, which I love to do.
That's fair.
is sort of like you mentioned, like these doomsdayers and these believers. I think the biggest risk is actually just like the general public hates AI, right? I think if you go literally anywhere, the general public absolutely hates AI so much. They have literally no. They don't. Yeah. You go to your random artist and they, like, hate AI. You go to your random, like, person in rural America, they're like, screw AI. It's like, taking all the water. Completely, like, nonsense arguments, but like, it doesn't matter. So when you look across the ecosystem, you've got that problem, and so and then you've got the doomsdayers, right? There's also the general public, which doesn't quite understand AI, or maybe they do, and they're just so worried about AI, taking our jobs and all sorts of other things, right? And so I think that's another aspect of this that's quite interesting is, general public hates it. The doomsdayers. Look, I'm a bit of a too live in the moment person to think, hey, what exactly does alignment mean, and does AI kill us all? Obviously there's huge risk to that. That's not what I'm an expert in, so I don't really care to opine too much. But as far as is it a bubble, or are we doing too much? What's going on? Is there a bubble? Are we doing too much? The question is, if AI model progress slows down, then of course we're in a bubble. That's obvious. But the way that progress is accelerating so fast, right? You see it month on month, right? I mean, the new models are coming out every month, every week, almost it feels like nowadays, or new capabilities, right? Just think about this year so far, right? Obviously Claude 4.5 came out and Claude Code came out last year, but adoption really upticked in the beginning of this year, and so we saw a huge uptick just in this month. Just in January, it went from 4% of or 2% of commits on GitHub to 4% of GitHub commits were done by Claude Code. Right? That does not mean a lot of people use Claude Code without having Claude commit for them. So you're talking about and then they use Codex, they use Cognition, they use Devin, they use all these other platforms. They use GitHub Copilot, they use Codex. We're probably at 10% or so of total code is being committed or written by AI, if not more. But at least for Claude Code itself, it went from 2 to 4% in 1 month, right? This acceleration is I think it's the thing that we've all been waiting for. Because fine, people are using ChatGPT, that's great. Fine, people are using image gen, that's great. These were not things that add trillions of dollars to the economy. These are social networks. These are help me on my homework. These are chill things. But now we're in the stage where it's no. These are trillions of dollars of economic value that could be added. And if you think about worldwide software developer wages, $2 trillion in wages, you end up with a pretty incredible amount of spend that could happen. I feel like it's my worst interview ever because I'm so focused on chopping garlic and not cutting off my fingers. I wonder if people are gonna trash me for my lack of claw grip, because I've tried to do it, but then I've failed and I've done more dangerous cutting grips. I do wonder how vicious is the audience.
We'll see. But yeah, you're talking about Claude Code adoption and GitHub commits being significantly more, especially this past couple months, and the value that Claude Code will have towards the economy. Do you want to elaborate more on that, or was that a finish?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's quite a bit of I'm definitely claw gripping now. This is I got to make up for it now that I'm cognizant. So I think the adoption of AI has been so accelerated over the last month. Just think about everything that's happened in the last month. We've had Claude Code happen. We had Claude Bot. We had Maltbook. Now we have we had Kimi K2.5 Swarms. We had Codex 5.3, which is a significant step up as well. And seems better in some specific areas, and these are there's so many areas, right? And it's at least internally, at my company, we've completely flipped over, right? About a third of the company's engineers, about a third of the company's hedge fund people, and about a third of the company's passionate individuals. And so the ex-hedge fund people, they're all in on Claude Code now too, right? They scrape data, they do financial modeling, they do pro forma financial modeling with Claude Code as the assistant. And so there's a variety of I think we've hit sort of escape velocity and all these things. And so over the last month or over the last 2 weeks, we've had the hyperscalers report earnings. And everyone's stocks have gone down, right? Google announced 180 billion of CapEx, the stock went down. And then Amazon announced 200 billion of CapEx and their stock went down I want to say 10%. So the market hates it, but they don't realize like, these CapEx decisions are because they see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, right?
Yeah.
The amount of adoption is just insane. So now that we've had these companies like report earnings and they've disclosed what their plans are for the year, and they're much higher than almost anyone predicted, you've got the market just hating it.
Yeah.
And so that brings like this interesting conundrum, which is that like, okay, the market is mad they're spending all this money on compute CapEx, but these companies know much better than you, right? Like, and by you I mean the investor, right? In reality, they're spending this much because they see insane amounts of demand, right? Anthropic doesn't just add $2 billion of revenue in 1 month, without having huge demand. And they're doing it at positive margins, right?
Yeah.
And they're doing it, and when they go to everyone, they're like, look, guys, we need more compute, we need more compute, we need more compute. And so it's after 3 years straight of the AI lab saying we need more compute, the hyperscalers are now saying it's not just we need more compute because we want to train bigger models and we want to do more research. It's actually we need more compute because we need to serve our users, right? We need to add hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars of compute, right? If Anthropic added $2.5 billion of revenue and their gross margin is 40%, they added like $1.5 billion of compute in 1 month, right? Just to serve that, you extrapolate that line out a little bit and you're like, holy crap, they actually need hundreds of billions of dollars of compute. Okay, fine, well, we need to build this all, right? Because it's a front run of, you build it and then they can rent it.
Yeah. So the bet here is that growth will continue to accelerate, and the amount of money that Anthropic and OpenAI makes will just continue to go up.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't, look, the party can stop at some point, that's for sure. At any point, I think my favorite thing was I tweeted about like people were like, oh, who expected this CapEx? And then I was like, well, we did, right? And then someone replies, the whale watcher told you that you're going to see whales. Wow, surprising. I was like, wow, that's a pretty good reply to me, But like, anyways, like it's like, obviously I'm the whale watcher here. We see the CapEx coming. Yeah. So the market doesn't like it, but it's clearly obvious that it's needed. And now the discussion is sort of like, I think a couple of years ago I said the hyperscalers would have no free cash flow, right? I.e., they would not have any, they would not be generating profits and buying back their stock in a short amount of time.
You can also transfer your onions and some veg to the white bowl on your left, I believe, or right?
Yes.
So on my cutting board, I just have garlic, ginger, and the green part of the scallions. So leave the green part for a garnish for later, so just keep it on. I guess at what point do you think the market would be satisfied or okay with this CapEx?
I think the market is going to get really mad at the hyperscalers. They haven't really yet, but we saw the signs of it at the beginning, about mid last year, right?
Okay.
For example, Oracle peaked when they announced within a week after announcing that they were going to do $300+ billion of deals with OpenAI, and the market really peaked around then. And then like since then they've gone down. And like other darlings that were like doing AI infrastructure like CoreWeave have also peaked, right? So now we've got this like interesting conundrum where now the hyperscalers are starting to say how much CapEx they're going to do. Yeah. And so when we think about like, hey, what's gonna end up happening is, these hyperscalers are gonna keep spending, right? What is their biggest advantage, right? It's that they can build the most infrastructure in the world. They've built the organization to build infrastructure faster than anyone else. Wow, this like got cooked super fast.
Show the camera.
It's just eggs, bro. I just don't generally use an induction, right?
Yeah, they heat up very fast, so just as a heads up.
Yeah. So the hyperscalers are, have been the most profitable companies to ever exist in humanity, right? Whether it's Meta through ads, whether it's Google through search, whether it's Amazon through AWS and Amazon.com, so on and so forth, right? Microsoft through Windows plus Office 365 plus Azure, right? they've all been the most profitable companies. Am I going to continue with the onions and such?
Yeah, or so, are the eggs cooked?
Yeah.
Okay, you could put the eggs on the plate.
Yeah, already done.
Okay, and then now add some oil, and then add all the veggies.
Yeah, yeah.
But make sure not to add too many onions, because there'll probably be more onions and carrots and other things. Just try to have like an even balance of vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so just get some color on the veg.
Do you tend to do the carrots and onions at the exact same time?
Yeah, like doing them all together is probably just easiest. So carrots, onions, and the white part of the scallions.
Okay. So the hyperscalers have been the most profitable companies ever.
Yeah.
And now they're about to face like sort of this like interesting conundrum, right?
Yeah.
There's a huge innovator's dilemma here, whether it's Meta doesn't own the platform, and wherever people's eyeballs are is where people are gonna like spend their cash. Or in the case of Google, right, AI can disrupt search. Or in the case of Microsoft, right, productivity suite is where they make all the money, right? Office 365, Windows, etc. But things like Claude Code, Claude Bot, and future iterations of it, just take a little imagination, will displace those immediately, right? You've got like same with Amazon, right? AWS is a general purpose AI infrastructure or sort of infrastructure play. But there's a lot of risk with everything else, with everyone getting disrupted quite heavily. And so they've got this dilemma where they could get disrupted heavily. At the same time, they've also got this challenge with regards to potentially being beaten, right? So they have to invest hugely in AI. They have to try and win AI.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then they're really, really screwed. But right now, the demand for AI is insatiable, and they can get pretty good returns just by building infrastructure and renting it out to the labs. But they'll obviously get way better returns if they have AI models in house. So they need to spend like crazy to do this. And at the same time, if everyone else is like sort of, it's like it's Pascal's wager, right? If I don't spend like crazy and others do, I lose, right? If I don't believe in God, right, digital God coming, then and others do, and it happens, then I'm a loser, right?
Yeah.
And so they've all got this dilemma, and the only solution is I have to spend more and more, until to keep up in the race. And so, this year's announcements of $180 billion of CapEx from Google and 200 from Amazon, right, which is 4x what they were just doing a few years ago, is quite intense. But in addition to that, we're looking at this like skyrocketing in the next few years, right? There's no reason why Google will have any profit in 27 at all, right? In terms of cash flow, they will just spend every dollar they make on AI infrastructure, and I think that's at least my belief, and AI models and so on and so forth, because that's basically my belief. And the market hasn't fully woken up to this realization. We've been saying it for a couple of years. In fact, we even did a piece last year, which was like, how much debt can the hyperscalers borrow, right? Because at some point, they have to lever up on building capacity, right? So an example of this is Meta, right? Meta is not as large as Google and Amazon, but they want to be in the race.
Yeah.
And so they've already started taking some debt on to build their data centers. Now, obviously, they have a tremendously profitable business that could pay it off. They just have to stop spending the money on CapEx that's not necessary. But Zuckerberg has woken up and fully realizes this. How much do I want to cook the onions and carrots?
Just get some color on it, and then just put it in the plate with the eggs.
Okay. And so you've seen some hyperscalers such as Meta. They're already taking debt on for their largest AI cluster in Louisiana. They're taking like $40 billion of debt on for that. But they're in the market to take on much, much more. Google and Amazon haven't taken on debt yet for AI infrastructure, but they will, right?
Yeah.
And so I think people will really realize and panic, and probably this year when they see all of these companies doing exactly this, right? Are they gonna, what ends up happening when the most profitable companies that have ever existed, which have compounded at double digits for over like a decade and a half, now all of a sudden say we don't care about profit anymore. We're just building pixie dust, right? We're building digital God, and if you believe in it, great. If you don't, then tough luck. and all this CapEx predates revenue, right? Because you need to have spent the CapEx, brought on the clusters and all that before you can have before you can ever have the revenue come online, right?
Like
and then the
power.
revenue starts off at lower margin, right?
Yeah. Also, it's time to cook the chicken. So just add some oil and then we'll cook chicken.
Okay, sounds
and then we're
great.
done. But yeah. Yeah, so saying investment before the revenue comes online?
Yeah. So there's like a timeline lag when revenue comes online. There's a timeline lag in terms of like when you rent the infrastructure versus like, hey, you have to train the model before you can ever start to actually get the like AI service revenue, right? And so you've seen this like with like all the vendors, right? Like, you know, there's huge spend for OpenAI and Anthropic and Google on training models, and the others are doing it too, like Amazon and such, before they ever end up with enough revenue, generating revenue from the models, from the services that they sell on top. And so the market is just going to really hate this.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to lead to, despite the fact everyone in San Francisco is going to see revenue skyrocketing, they're going to see all the amazing capabilities, but we live in a bubble, right? If you told, we put out some research that was like, hey, 4% of commits on GitHub are Claude code, and everyone at SF is like, that's too low, right? Like it's like 100% of mine.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 50% for all the boomers, right? And it's like, no. Like, you know, we've got a lot of adoption to go. And so people are going to like sort of like see all this amazing model progress and revenue growth and adoption in SF, but then like in New York and in London and like Hong Kong and other financial capitals of the world, Singapore, et cetera, people are going to see the exact opposite, right? They're going to see the most profitable companies ever are destroying their business model to build capacity in something that maybe necessarily doesn't have returns.
Yeah, like a big bet towards.
And so that I think is gonna, and likewise they're gonna see the general public fucking hates AI, and you likely see like a real backlash to AI from both the financial class and the normal people of the world.
Does it matter though if the public hates AI if it provides a lot of value towards enterprises and companies? Like, isn't the main value and profit coming from enterprises more so than the general public?
Exactly, and I think that like is like the big fear, right? You know, we've already had like decades of like people being like, hey, income inequality is bad, and the value of labor has been falling, right?
Yeah.
The value of labor used to be way higher, right? You know, as a percentage of the economy, but as we've mechanized, as capital has become more and more important, as machinery has grown, we've sort of had this major change, which is that you know, capital is taking more and more of the earnings capital's taking more and more of their earnings, and so people are really mad about that. And now we're going to start seeing huge job loss too, right? Like, hey, like, turns out there's shitloads of software developers just out of school who can't get jobs. Okay, fine, but what about like the 2 million people who drive cars for a living? Okay, well, Waymo works well. Tesla Robotaxi is starting to be deployed. Zoox is starting to be deployed.
Yeah.
You know, we're starting to see really the beginnings of all that.
Yeah.
We're going to see, you know, the stock market maybe does well, or the GDP is going to look good, but then normal people aren't going to be accruing much value from it. And so more and more, you know, and eventually like the financial markets will not do too well either because software is imploding, because hyperscalers are going to invest all their capital. And you're going to end up with this like major weird fear and worry for everyone in the industry, or sorry, everyone in the world. And there's like an AI backlash, right? And I think that's going to be like the hottest button issue of like the next election, right? If not the midterms, right? And it seems obvious to me that like any party that wants to win should just become the anti-AI party, because life as we know it is changing.
Taking a little detour, where do you think the alpha is, or like the bet is? Because you said that Nvidia's kind of covering their bases with the Rubin CPX, the Grok chips, standard GPUs, and there's a lot more startups out there that are very specialized, and even like a lot of YC companies, right, are like popping up and kind of tackling this industry. Do you think it'll kind of turn out to be a play where like Nvidia at the end of the day still reigns and like crushes every other company that tries to take away their market share, or do you think there will actually be a lot of value accrued to these more specialized, smaller companies?
In the chip space specifically?
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a really strong debate that people are having. Is how much value accrues to Nvidia, how much value accrues to the model companies, how much do they start to really, do smaller chip companies take charge and win? And it is really an innovator's dilemma in the sense that hey, why did Intel and AMD not win in AI GPUs? Well, it's because they were making money off of CPUs, and Nvidia was focused on parallel computing. And now you've got sort of the same question, which is, will Nvidia be able to innovate on all the things that needs to be innovated, or will there's a lot of scraped stuff on the bottom. Yeah. Well, it's like there's stuff stuck in the pan, So I'm trying to scrape it off.
We can also get a new pan. I have 2 new pans.
Actually, that would be amazing.
The final thing, we just got to now add everything together. So first, add some oil to the pan once it's dry, and then add the garlic ginger. But have it kind of lower.
Have it what?
Have the temperature be lower, not too high.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Nvidia is, they've kind of got this innovator's dilemma. The nice thing is they embody Silicon Valley spirit more than maybe any other company, which is Andy Grove, right? Andy Grove from Intel.
Yeah. Only the paranoid survive. Only
the paranoid survive, right? And I think Jensen Huang is one of the most paranoid people in the industry, right?
Yeah.
He's constantly freaking out, changing internal things, in a good way though, right? Truly founder mode. All right, the aromatics are very aromatic.
Okay, then just add all the veg. Don't add everything, because proportions, but add the onions, carrots, eggs, peas, and then chicken. And then once you have that, then add the rice, and should mix everything together. And then at the very end, you're gonna add soy sauce, and then some sugar and salt to adjust. Yeah, but Jensen
Jensen's very paranoid, and that makes him an amazing founder and CEO. And so you have all these people freaking out, but it's the moment he sniffed wind of the OpenAI Cerebrus deal, he immediately went out and was okay, wasn't building this technology because I didn't believe in it, but now I do because OpenAI is trying to use Cerebrus. So I'm just going to go acquire Grok, right? That's why he did it, right? So it's there's a bit of the moment he sniffs anything, he changes course and tune, updates his priors. And I think that's really impressive. And so as you step forward to hey, what about you step forward to okay, well, what does that mean for his hardware roadmap? Well, before he was making one just a few kinds of architectures and chips, but primarily it was all very similar, right? It was a large GPU, and it was the best memory, the best networking, everything sort of the best as possible, and sort of one size fits all, with the main line of A100, H100, B200, right? But as we look to Rubin and beyond, right, Jensen is really starting to fully embrace heterogeneity, right? Much like this fried rice, right? There's no one individual ingredient that shines above all, right? You've kind of got to have a little bit of everything, and so this is sort of what Jensen's believing here. So he's got this CPX chip, right, which is made for context processing, prefill. It's pretty good at video and image gen as well, but it's not really good at latency sensitive applications. They've of course got their main line of GPUs, and now they've got these Grok chips, right? Nvidia's sort of got every single aspect or type of chip possible now within his company, and he's continuing to try and innovate and move as fast as possible in all these things.
Yeah.
And so when we think about hey, what ends up happening with Nvidia, in this case, Nvidia knows they will lose because they have a business model deficit, right? Google, Amazon, they get to vertically integrate, and vertical integration always saves tons of money. So he has to be better than everyone. By not just a little bit, by a ton to justify his margins. Otherwise, the vertical integration of his competitors will win out. And so this is sort of like, I think, the big challenge. And I think the story is not finished, right? Nvidia will remain on top this year and next year, based on what we see, but others will gain some ground. And the question is what happens in the long term. And honestly, you know, the cards are up in the air, right? No one has the right to win. No one has a destiny to win. Things are moving so fast. Whoever does innovates the hardest will win. Not necessarily like, oh, you know, and I think moats are as shallow as they've ever been, right? Because how fast things are moving, the size of the numbers that are being thrown around now, right? It's hundreds of billions of dollars for each major hyperscaler. The size of the numbers are so large that you can just go and justify hiring anyone, any talent. The moats become much smaller, and this is sort of like pretty big deal with regards to, you know, does Nvidia win or not, right?
Yeah. I guess, what do you think's the biggest bottleneck for speed to keep us from going as fast as possible? Is it memory? What do you think is the main bottleneck?
You know, I think I have 0 Wake, by the way.
Yeah. I don't think I'll have any Wake with an
I swear to God, if Uncle Roger finds this video, I'm gonna cry. He's gonna be like, no MSG, hiya, no Wake, hiya, induction furnace, what are you doing? No, yeah, but anyway, sorry. You know, what's the biggest bottleneck to speed? You know, I think you cook fried rice much faster if you have a wok. So okay, all right, I'm done. I'm not good enough to justify that. There's like 100 other mistakes I made, you know? But like, I think the biggest bottleneck to like, hey, why only $200 billion this year for Amazon? Why not 500, right?
Yeah.
I think there's like a number of limiting factors, and it's sort of like year by year it's been different, right?
Yeah.
In 2023, it was definitely all related to chips, right? Semiconductors, CoWoS, which is chip on wafer on substrate. Driving up production of this was very, very difficult. And then as we step forward to 2024, as you step forward to 2020, oh, I didn't throw any sugar or soy sauce. No wonder.
Oh, did you serve it already?
No, I didn't. I almost did.
Yeah. Final step, just sugar, soy sauce to taste. So taste it as you go.
I don't know how much sugar to do, but dude, this shit's about to be sweeter than Panda Express. Oh shit! I completely forgot about the soy sauce. Anyways,
2023
in 2023 it was CoWoS, it was semiconductor supply chains. As we step forward to 24, 25, it started to become data centers. Energy is a bigger deal in 25, 26. But as we step forward, right, you know, supply chains are fast and they react quickly, right? So this current like whole thing of like, oh, data centers are the shortage. Yes, data centers are a shortage. Yes, power is a shortage. At the end of the day, actually, there's a lot of other shortages around too, right? You know, and when you think about power, okay, well, like if you were not creative, right, and you just relied on grid power, well, there's only 3 companies that make dual combined cycle reactors. But as you step forward to like, oh, okay, well, what if I make, what if I want, what if I take something else, right? What if I take aeroderivative engines? Okay, there's a few more vendors. What if I take industrial gas turbines? There's a few more vendors. What if I take medium speed reciprocating engines, right? Which are these like sort of like any company that makes diesel engines, there's dozens of them. They can make medium speed reciprocating engines, and I could connect those up to make power for the data center, right? So when I look at like, hey, who sort of broke these bounds, right? Elon was the first one to sort of say, well, no, I don't care about the actual rules. Let me just put power generation on site with low quality mobile turbines, right? Not turbines even, right? Industrial gas engines, you know, reciprocating engines, et cetera, et cetera. So Elon broke all these rules, and now the whole industry's reacted fast enough because there's so many suppliers, right? And the lead time to like ramp up production of these things is ultimately not nearly as long as it is in the semiconductor supply chain. So going back to your question of like, hey, what's the big bottleneck? Well, the big bottleneck is now back again to semiconductors, right? Semiconductors are extremely cyclical. The buildings that chips are made in are the most complicated buildings people make. You know, they have multi-year timelines. They require not just all the complexity of like electricians and plumbers that data centers do, but they actually require a lot more complex because there's all sorts of chemicals and precursors and so on and so forth that are going through the data center, right, or through the fab. And so people have just not built enough fabs. And then that's ignoring all the complicated tools, right? These tools cost hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases.
Yeah.
They're the most complicated thing people make. And so you end up with, wow, so the challenge here is not just, it's ramping up production of semiconductors. And so now we've entered an age, especially in 26, but as we go into 27, 28, when we look in 2026, Google would buy a lot more GPUs, but they can't ramp production fast enough, right? And so they have to buy tons of GPUs. When we go to 27, it applies again, right? Google simply cannot buy enough TPUs, and they have to buy tons of GPUs. And when you look across the entire supply chain, no one is getting enough capacity of semiconductors. Yes, they can put them in data centers. Yes, they can get the energy through maybe ghetto methods like putting reciprocating engines, right? Diesel reciprocating engines or gas engines, but maybe not the most clean or efficient thing, but they can do it. And so you end up with, semiconductors are the shortage, but what's the bottleneck to building more fabs, or to building more chips is more fabs. And people just have not built these fabs yet, right? And that's, I think, the big bottleneck now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's going to persist through the end of the decade, or until AI, sort of slows down.
How are you feeling, Dylan?
I turned around and I saw yours briefly, so now I'm trying to wipe the edges of my bowl so it looks beautiful,
Yeah, no need to worry too much.
No. People are going to judge me hardcore.
How was that, Dylan? Was that fun?
It was quite fun. I think there's the right amount of stress and involved. I think I maybe didn't share my thoughts as well as normal, but maybe that's more natural and fun.
Yeah, like a mix of things. Great. Yeah. And this is yours. Okay, let's try yours first, and then let's try the restaurant actually first, and then
control.
Yeah, control. Okay, cheers. Maybe a little cold.
I always feel like you got to cheers the spoon.
That was good. Okay, and we'll try yours now.
Is that okay?
A lot of meat. I love it. I'll try it as well. Cheers. Yeah.
I like mine more.
Yeah. No, it's like a lot stronger. Like it's very deep. Mine's probably gonna be bland compared to that.
So I think there's this debate in the world, right? French people, they don't season their food so much. They're all about the ingredients shining. Then you got equatorial people, right? Slop, like Indian food and Caribbean food and Southeast Asian food. Just throw on the spice, throw on the sugar, throw on the everything. And it's okay, well then is this? And sort of the elitist French would say, that's because your ingredients suck. You have to throw all the slop on there, right?
Overdo it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm a slop son,
Yeah, I mean it is very tasty. So let's try this. The palates are. Yeah, I think compared to yours, it's a lot blander. It's very light.
Not gonna lie.
You like yours the better, right? Yeah, I can tell. Honestly, yours is
There's a mess up of technique, right? The bottom of my pan was getting burnt. And we couldn't get a wok because this is induction cooktop. But because the bottom was getting burnt, the smoke flavor I think was imparting into the rice. And I got a wok. It's intentional.
Yeah. Yeah, you can kind of taste it here, but it's hard. Very good. Okay, are there any call outs, things that you want people to know? Are you hiring clients?
Yeah, I am hiring. We're at 60 people now. We work with all the top companies in the world, major AI labs, major hyperscalers, semiconductor companies, data center companies, et cetera. We cover the entire swath from AI infrastructure, AI models, tokenomics, right? Usage of AI models, who's using them, what are they using them for, what's the cost of running it, all these sorts of things. Yeah. So that's the area we're really expanding into this year and last year. And so I think that's the audience that also matches sort of this audience that you have here. So if anyone wants to track those things, right? Usage of AI, the person who was working on this before, unfortunately, for them, but also a call out, they got hired by Anthropic, right? So sort of the person who was working on this got hired by Anthropic as a sort of please don't poach anymore by people. But I think it's a good pathway, right? It's it's showing your work is public.
So.
If you're going to kill it, you're going to kill it. You have all the resources behind you of knowing and understanding infrastructure. I think that's the big call out is we're hiring for that role. We pay well, we have healthcare, we hire globally. We're in 8 or 10 different countries like US, Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, France, Germany, Israel, global, Canada, UK, right? So we're everywhere. I think that's the allure. We get to work with all the coolest people.
Great, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dylan. Hope
Yeah.
it was a great time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes.
I really care about the quality of the chicken.
Okay, this is like chicken egg fried rice, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Lydia, how do you assess?
I think mine's is a little intense.
Yours is intense. There's probably too much soy sauce.
That's fair. I forgot
really
to throw it
good.
in, and then I just threw it all in.
YOLO. How much did you have? See, he left like.
He left a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I would say, like I would take this. I would take Alan's. I would take.
I would
you
also
said
take
the soy
his.
sauce for me. I don't know, but
I like Dylan's.
okay.
Yeah.
It has a
one
lot
each.
of
I like
flavor.
salty.
There's one each. Brandon, you're the tiebreaker.
I'm on the side of the slot.
Yeah. Wait, what do you vote? What do you vote?
You voted
Yeah,
for you.
you,
Oh, I
you
vote for
technically
you too.
voted for us. Yeah.
You worked in a restaurant, bro.